Good day. My name is Gordon Finn, and I'm speaking to you from Oakville, Ontario, Canada, 2023. I have found myself able to perform what I would like to call consciousness projection to other places and times. Sometimes on the physical plane, sometimes on the astral, mental, causal, and higher planes. I found myself doing this spontaneously, as it were, shortly after the death of my father in 1968, when I would be speaking with him and hearing things that I didn't understand. Excuse me. I'm sure you can edit that out. He was passed on for a few months, a year, and he told me to imagine that he'd gone on a long holiday, and told me this more than once. And after a year or two and some reading, I finally got what he meant, that he was in the spirit world, in some kind of heaven, and was having a long vacation. Further reading of spiritualist and theosophical texts deepened my understanding. Years go by. I find myself doing the odd projection 2, 3, 4 times a year, and wondering what was going on, but doing enough reading to get a fairly good idea that I was being trained, set up for further adventures. By the late 1990s, I was doing it quite a lot. And that resulted in my first book, Eternal Life and How to Enjoy It. Shortly after that, having read other out-of-body experiencers, like, of course, Robert Monroe and others, I came across the work of Bruce Moen, who had trained himself at the Monroe Institute in Virginia and written extensively about his experiences, and gave hints on how to adapt his techniques to your own experiences. And I learned a lot from that, including the use of the hemisync tapes, which balance the brain waves in an interesting way and seem to facilitate projection. I learned how to explore, how to retrieve lost souls, how to help those in a lower plane move to a higher plane. They'd be in a lower plane through ignorance, a place that you might call purgatory. And we're quite keen to get somewhere better. And once you get the hang of what you're doing, it's not that hard. And I did a lot of this, and was able to compare my experiences with other practitioners who contributed to Bruce Moen's Afterlife Knowledge Conversation Board. And that certainly helps when you're starting out, to compare notes with others. So one moves on. One learns, one reads, one discusses. One understands the vast complexity of the spirit worlds, the planes as they are sometimes referred to. And they start right from when you might slip out of your body when asleep, not by desire particularly or intention. You just sort of slip out, and there you are in your bedroom, in your house, in your neighborhood, moving around, checking out this, checking out that. You discover others are floating around in your neighborhood. Some conscious, some semi-conscious, others seemingly quite asleep. You learn to interact with them if you wish, in a sociable manner, just as you might in your own neighborhood, in your own vicinity. And some people find that that can be extended into romantic entanglements, of which there are many, I might add. Many people do float out of their bodies at night, go on short trips, big adventures, enter relationships that they sustain over the years and barely have any memory of it when they wake up. This is not uncommon. If you find yourself thinking over images and little videos in your imagination where it seems like you are doing this, then I can assure you, you are. Your brain, which doesn't really function out of body, your consciousness does, has peculiar and limiting ways to translate these out-of-body experiences into terms it understands. Also, the brain processing the activities and joys and cares and upsets of the previous day and the, shall we say, anxieties of what might be on the next day will take your memory of out-of-body experience and mix it in with your memories of the previous day and your anxieties or ambitions for the next day. Thus we have those surreal complexities in dreams, which people just throw up their arms and go, well, I don't know what that meant. But have a look at them more closely. They are a mix of what I just described. If you are interacting with spirits you don't know and taking them on a journey in a bike, on a car, in a yacht, in a funny-looking airplane, then that's what you're doing. You're finding and then taking lost souls in the lower areas, if you like, and moving them on up to a more conventional and happier heaven. Many people do this, and again, do not know. Over the years of my counseling practice, I've discovered many people do this. They'll tell me about these recurring dreams. And the details are repeated as I have described. Sometimes people, while out of body, will access memories of past lives. And they will talk to me about doing this and doing that, but dressed in a peculiarly old outfit that might be appropriate for, a German peasant in 1700 or an American farmer in 1900s or a British businessman in Victorian times. All these things are shreds of past life memories that you can work on and focus on them and meditate on them and bring them into a fuller, deeper memory, which then can become a reality that you can explore. Many people think of doing this and don't find the time to do it, but I would urge you to find the time. It is a great experiment in self-education. Now, when I go to the various spirit realms, some of them are extremely beautiful, what the spiritualists would call the summer land. They are beautiful, radiant, almost unbelievably gorgeous landscapes that replicate everything that we know of that is beautiful here. Mountains, valleys, river valleys, meadows, fields, forests. The snowy wastes of Antarctica and the Arctic are also there. But when you're floating around, you won't feel cold. Your astral body knows not temperature. Although you might think you're hot, that's a vague memory of being hot in this world. Meeting up with your beloveds, your loved ones, your family, your extended family, your old school friends, any number of people is possible. You can do it. I've done it many times. I've explored the notion of interactingly, intelligently, the spirits of celebrities, actors, musicians, politicians. Just out of curiosity, really. Curious to see what JFK was thinking about, what he was doing. Curious to see what Terence McKenna was doing. Fascinated to find out how favorite writers of my writing career have fared in the afterlife. Jung, Eliot, Joyce, Thomas, Brottigan, Gore Vidal. Many, I've met many, and I have written about it. As one explores the various realms and finds out the various levels of beauty, and the lower levels are a little tawdry, a little tatty, and they're usually a reflection of the people that live there, just as every neighborhood, rural or urban, in this plane is a reflection of those who live there. It really is that simple. Now, what you won't find very much, although it does exist, are facilities of production, steelworks, timber yards. They're there, but there's not that many of them. And that is because on the lower levels there's plenty, because people think they still have to manufacture things, and people manufacture cars, do all sorts of things. But on the higher levels, they learn that you can do all this by thought. You can create things by thought. And that goes from a table and chair, a window, a door, a room, a cottage, a sizable mansion, a church, a museum, a neighborhood, parks. All this sort of thing can and is designed and created on the astral plane and the mental plane. You will find various people, some of whom will be strangers, and others whom will grin at you because they know they've seen you before, but they're waiting to see if you remember. And you don't always do that. They're accustomed to out-of-body visitors being semi-conscious and not remembering that they've been here before or visited there before. All manner of social and cultural activities take place on the astral and mental planes. Anything you can imagine. any creative activity, any sport, any hobby, any study. And by that I'm including mathematics, physics, chemistry, biology. Those who were interested in those subjects in this world tend to be interested in those subjects in that world. They continue their studies. They continue their fascination. A lot of the, in fact, many of the astral plane, how shall I say, neighborhoods, communities, areas, rural areas, valleys, mountains, have been created by mature, ascended spirits who understand the principles of creation much more than the average you and me, filling out our garden with interesting flowers and arrangements, and our bedrooms with lovely furniture. They know how to create communities. They know how to sustain them so that beings arrive there and think, oh, this is wonderful. And it is. But they don't realize the, how shall we say, angelic being hovering in the distance that's just created all of that. Just in the way that kindergarten children playing in the yard at recess don't think about the building and manifestation on physical plane terms of the school and the yard they're playing in. They just enjoy it. It's the same on the astral plane. Many people on the various spirit worlds continue their earthly activities in a way that suggests they've sort of accepted that they're dead, but they don't really get it. They would prefer not to think about it. They didn't think about it much here. I'll face that when my time comes. Their time comes, and they still don't really want to face it. But they can enjoy their lives. They can decorate their front rooms. They can have friends over for dinner. They can go to the pub. They can play tennis. They can play golf. They can watch hockey. They can go to the library and get thrillers and romance novels. You can do all this. You can also watch the streaming services. They were, I imagine, created there before they were created here. All kinds of visual entertainment is there. Many people in spirit will still have the habit of watching movies and TV shows that they know from Earth, and they're available there. Now, I couldn't quite tell you technologically how they're there, but I can tell you that they are. And you will run into people that are still watching General Hospital or Coronation Street or any number of favorite shows. And in terms of sports, there's an interesting thing. The participants have to, they don't have to, but at a certain point they realize they can control the movement of the ball with their minds. They can say, I want the ball to go here, I want the ball to go there. But then everyone else does too. So it becomes a bit of a mental battle, or rivalry, if you like. And also because of the lack of gravity, there's hardly any gravity in the astral and mental planes. You can float and fly, no problem. So there's new rules are developed. I've seen basketball where they can do those marvelous balletic leaps that they do here, but they're even more so. They can twirl around like ballet dancers. And as long as they keep bouncing the ball and not going too high, they continue. And the same with other games. Some games they're not allowed to fly at all. Others are like the ones you've seen in the film Harry Potter, where they are twirling around like mad and flying all over the place. So you can also visit your church of your choice, as we say, the temple of your religion, the mosque, the synagogue. All religions are practiced in the astral plane. And people tend to stick to the communities that they grew up in here. Some move around, some change one for the other, others leave, don't go back, just like here. There is a sense of, for a lot of people, a relief, that great relief of, oh, thank goodness, there is an afterlife after all. I always wondered, but I was never sure. There's a happiness at being reunited with your family and friends, or at least some of them, the happiness for the ones that are there, and you wait around patiently for the next crew to come. Because once you're there and you've gone through the, oh my goodness, I'm dead thing, then you realize everyone else does too. It takes a while, but you'll get it. So, as I say, relief, great joy, great pleasure. A lack of, how shall I say, anxiety about bills and debts and everything that takes wealth to accomplish here takes focused imagination there. You will find on most levels goods are exchanged free. Crafts, hobbies, all that sort of productive work is exchanged amongst friends and acquaintances and that sort of a situation. Because there is no need for money. Even though people think there's a need for money, eventually they find out there isn't. I've never seen any banks there, but maybe I haven't looked hard enough. There are people continuing on with certain activities out of habit. On the, how shall I say, lower levels, and I don't mean hell, there are lower levels that are above hell, but still filled with, how shall I say, narrow-minded, unimaginative, judgmental, thoughtless people. And there's a fair bit of bars, casinos, brothels, opium dens, crack houses, all that sort of thing. It all goes on. Sometimes you can visit these places, as I have, and look around for those that are maybe getting a little tired of all the old stuff and are looking for a way out but don't know how. And you can help them move on. Although there's always a bit of a tendency for the group, the tribe, to hang on to its members. They won't let you take them away. The same with very conservative religious sects. They don't like you coming around because they know you're going to pinch a few and take them away. And they derive their strength from the size of the community. They don't realize it, but they do. They think they're saving souls, but actually they're limiting them. They're fencing them in. But, just try to convince them of that. I've had many tussle with a pastor or a priest or an imam when I see that there are souls looking to sneak out the back door and just need somebody to help them. And that happens, same reason it happens here, the process of growth. People outgrow their old attitudes, their old thought forms, their old belief systems. Each level is more refined, more beautiful than the previous. There are very high levels, the causal, Buddhic, where all landscapes seem to be left behind. All sense of bodies and form are gone. you see these ghostly images, and I don't mean ghosts as in here, but vague, sort of smoky images that are like people, like animals, like mountains, like any kind of landscape. But they're sort of barely there, and neither are you. So there's this movement away from form, away from definition, into what I would call seas of light, wafting light, textures of color and light. And you float among these in a pretty blissful state, let me tell you. You lose your identity, and for some that's a little hard. When I'm there, I'm not Gordon. When you're there, you won't be George or Sally. And there's not that many people there, or beings there, because it takes a lot of nerve. And one of my practices is to help souls that are on the edge of that, but still clinging to their identities, and help them move into the place of light and complete freedom. What I like to call the God consciousness, where all is understood, all is known, but nothing needs to be done. Souls, I should say, need to understand that they can move into that and experience it for a while, and then come back down a couple of levels and be George and be Sally, or be the lady of wealth and fashion from the 1800s, or the athlete in ancient Greece, or the assistant to a pharaoh in ancient Egypt. You can do all that, but you have to give up your precious identity to do that. You have to give it up forever. That's what holds people up. They think they have to give it up forever. I help them experience it a little bit and come back. And believe me, the joy of being nothing and nobody far exceeds the bliss that you felt in the higher heaven worlds, where you're still a man, a woman, a devotee, a student, an aspirant. So when you come back for another life, of course, you give all that up. You have learned what you can learn in the spirit worlds, given your mental and emotional capabilities from that last incarnation here. You've only got so much of them, and when you exhaust them, you have to go back for a new load of capabilities and character traits and ambitions. So you reunite with what we call the higher self, or the monad, which has produced you in the first place, and get a fresh load of all that stuff I just mentioned, and come back. Talk to your guides, understand what you accomplished in past lives, what you still need to accomplish, and set up a game plan for the next life. And then, after careful consideration of all these points, you move into a womb. You don't have to stay there. You sort of practice for a while. You move in and out, and eventually you are born as a baby. And the whole process goes on again. It's been going on for thousands of years on this planet as we round out our educations. And I hesitate to say, but it's true. We did it also on other planets before coming to Earth. This is a new incarnation cycle that we are in on Earth. There have been others on the other planetary systems, Andromeda, Sirius, all of them. We came here because this looked like a fresh set of challenges. And if you're having a tough time on this incarnation, you'll go, yes, it is sure a fresh set of challenges, and I'm not sure I want to repeat it. I have people tell me that all the time. Anyway, that's a quick guide to the other worlds and why we are here and why we can and do explore them. There is much to explore and much to know and much to celebrate. And I urge you all to pursue that path whenever you get a chance from your daily schedules and duties. So long.